This is Annapolis Week in Review on MarylandReporter.com. I'm Len Lazarick, and with me today are Joel McCord of WYPR and Charls Robinson of Maryland Public TV. This week we all attended and did stories on the governor's State of the State address. There wasn't a lot of new news there. I wrote about cracking down on new septic systems and the power outages by big utilities. What was your take on the speech, Joel?
As you said, no new news. In fact, the only news was the septic system requirement that the governor wants to ban septic systems in major developments throughout the state in order to shore up some.
And he didn't even spell that out in the speech. I mean, it was a pretty vague reference.
No, it was a fairly vague reference, and well, most of the speech was a fairly vague reference as it was. It was what he wants to do though is to keep from doing this business of McMansion subdivisions being built on septic systems, galloping all across the countryside, and try to promote tight growth, tight development as the smart growth legislation had it.
Right, and this really raised the ire of a lot of rural legislators.
Oh my.
Yeah.
You know, infringing on property rights, job killing, they were absolutely livid. And some of the Democrats as well have some problems with this.
It's interesting, Lynn, that this whole thing, while it wasn't necessarily targeted at Republicans, it ends up targeting them because we're talking about subdivisions in Charles County, St. Mary's County, and of course, those that are a little lean Republican. And so you had a lot of talking points that came back. I think he's coming after us. But in reality, the whole idea
and the Eastern Shore.
Yeah, the Eastern Shore, and the Shore, of course. But the whole idea is that according to some studies, the percentages of the spillage that comes out of septic tanks is one of the main polluters of the bay. And so that is his argument to say this is why we have to move ahead on that one.
And you also looked into the other thing that was sort of news because it had only come out the day before, was this crackdown on the big bad utility companies who are leaving people in the dark and the cold.
Yeah, this comes from the whole snow, I don't think we call it Snowmageddon, but it was a snow event this year. Apparently down in the Washington suburbs, there are a lot of people who still don't have power. And of course, the utilities have constantly said, we need an increase in our rates. Well, now there is a move afoot, if you will, and there is legislation that would mean that power companies, electric utilities, would have to rebate if they don't get the repairs done in a timely fashion. What's interesting about this, and I just had a conversation with Speaker Bush about this, that it would apply to all utilities in the state. So we're talking BGE and Allegheny as well. I can tell you, the lobbying on this one is going to be huge. I don't think that's what they thought they were going to be dealing with at the beginning, but watch it get ratcheted up as the legislation starts to move, and watch it get watered down, as we always know when something like this is proposed.
Right, and the other smaller companies like Southern Maryland Electric
Allegheny,
Cooperative,
Allegheny,
and
Delmarva.
the Delmarva, the one on the Eastern Shore, yeah.
Right.
Now, before we get into what's going to come up next week, you were also working on a piece about illegal immigration.
Right. Victor Ramirez, a senator from Prince George's County, has a bill in to allow people to have in-state tuition regardless of their immigration status. In other words, folks the children of people who came here illegally can get in-state tuition under this bill. You have to prove a number of things. You went to school in Maryland for at least 2 years. Your parents have paid their taxes. You've paid taxes, that sort of thing. And the idea behind that, of course, is we spent all this money educating these kids K through 12. Why are we going to waste it now and not let them go to college? The opposition, of course, is, wait a minute, they're here illegally. Is this fair?
Right.
And you know what? This is going to be the first time that they will have an advocate in the Senate from Victor Ramirez. You know, he came from over in the House and he moved over to the Senate, and that's going to change, I think, the dynamics of the dialogue that goes on between this.
Good point.
Okay. Coming up next week, we have the big hearing on the gay marriage bill and election laws, filing fees, trying to get fewer people running for big offices. Thanks for being here, Charles,
Welcome.
Joel, and thanks for watching Annapolis Week.